A sharp crack echoed through first class as a baby wailed. And nobody helped. Angela Carter, a quiet black mother, had just been slapped across the face by a flight attendant in front of dozens of cameras. No one questioned why. No one asked what led to it. She held her crying baby tighter, calm in a storm of judgmental whispers and viral live streams. But Angela wasn't just a mother with a screaming child. She had three things no one saw coming: a past in command, a call to power, and a countdown that would change the airline forever. Angela Carter stepped into first class, carrying her 8-month-old daughter Ava close to her chest. Her movements were slow, deliberate. She wasn't rushing, wasn't flustered, just focused on keeping Ava comfortable. She wore a plain navy cardigan over a wrinkle-resistant dress, her hair pulled into a neat bun. No designer bags, no flashy jewelry, nothing that screamed first class. Just quiet composure. The flight attendant standing at the front cabin door didn't like what she saw. Rachel Whitman, lead attendant on Skylink Airways Flight 882, had perfected the art of first impressions. And this one? This one didn't sit right with her. Angela's skin tone, her economy-grade diaper bag, the way she avoided eye contact, it all screamed wrong cabin. She stepped forward with rehearsed assertiveness. "Ma'am, economy boarding is through the rear jetway." Angela's voice was soft but steady. "My seat is 2A." Rachel's smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's a first-class seat." Angela nodded, adjusting Ava's blanket. "Yes, I know." A few heads in the nearby rows turned. A man in a charcoal suit leaned forward. An elderly woman adjusted her pearls, arching an eyebrow. Rachel stepped closer, her voice slightly louder now. "Ma'am, this section is reserved for premium passengers. If you need help finding your correct seat, I can assist you." Angela paused, then reached into her coat pocket and held out her boarding pass, neatly folded and clean. Rachel snatched it, eyes scanning quickly. 2A, she read aloud, almost incredulous. Her tone turned cold. "And how exactly did you acquire this ticket?" Angela's calm demeanor didn't change. "I purchased it," Rachel scoffed. "With what? A raffle?" The slap came before anyone registered the escalation. A sharp crack of skin on skin, echoing like a whip in the quiet cabin. Ava screamed. Passengers gasped. Angela staggered slightly but didn't fall. She turned her head slowly back to Rachel, her cheek already reddening. Her arms tightened protectively around her daughter, but her voice remained even. "Don't touch me again." Rachel looked almost invigorated by the violence, like she'd finally enforced the order she believed the cabin needed. She turned to the watching passengers. "Apologies for the disturbance. Some people believe a baby and a bad attitude entitles them to everything." The businessman in seat 2D muttered. "Finally, someone with backbone." Angela remained still, gently rocking Ava as the baby's wailing pierced the cabin air. Her silence seemed to provoke Rachel even more. "You're delaying the rest of us," Rachel said loudly. "Please exit the aircraft so we can maintain our on-time departure." Angela said nothing. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply reached into her bag to retrieve Ava's bottle. And that's when phones came out. A girl in her early 20s pulled up TikTok. "Y'all, this flight attendant just slapped a mom with a baby. I can't even." Her camera panned slowly from Angela's unmoving face to Rachel's still smoldering rage. Live stream comments started flowing in. "She deserved it. Why do people bring babies to first class? Bet she snuck in." Angela remained silent. She didn't even glance at the phones. Instead, she checked Ava's diaper bag and calmly pulled out a clean burp cloth. Her every movement was quiet, methodical, so controlled it made the chaos around her seem louder. Rachel pulled her radio from her belt. "Code yellow in first class. Disruptive passenger refusing to comply. Recommend immediate removal." Angela glanced briefly at her phone as a text came in. "Merger protocol ready? 12:00 p.m. Eastern." She tucked it away before Rachel could see. "Ma'am, you need to disembark, now." Angela gently kissed Ava's forehead and whispered something inaudible. Then she looked up. My baby is fed, clean, and not a threat to this flight. I am sitting in the seat I paid for." Rachel sneered. "Scams come in all forms. You people always find a way." A collective exhale rippled through the cabin, but not a single voice objected. The elderly woman in pearls shook her head. "Standards have really fallen." The man in 2D shook his head in disgust. "This is why we can't have nice things." Rachel turned back to her radio. "Captain Blake, we have a confirmed non-compliant passenger, requesting security to escort her off." Captain Donald Blake's voice came through. "Acknowledged. Ground security standing by." Angela adjusted her daughter in her arms, her expression still unreadable. Ava had stopped crying, soothed by the steady rhythm of her mother's heart. Rachel looked down her nose. "I'm sure your baby daddy will be real proud watching this on YouTube." Angela's eyes didn't flinch, but the girl live streaming whispered, "Okay, that was uncalled for." A second phone began broadcasting on Facebook Live. The incident was spreading. Angela remained seated, silent, still. But in her stillness was something else. Something that made the college girl filming turn her camera fully toward her. "Who is she?" someone whispered behind her. Rachel didn't notice. She was too caught up in her authority, her assumption that silence meant weakness, that composure meant submission. She had no idea that the countdown had already begun. Angela Carter sat perfectly still in seat 2A, her back straight, her eyes lowered, her arms gently rocking Ava, who had finally calmed into soft hiccups. The cabin buzzed with the low hum of collective judgment, muted whispers, quiet typing, screens being tilted just enough to record, but not enough to interfere. No one asked her if she was okay. No one offered water, a tissue, or even a look of sympathy. And Angela didn't ask for it. She simply sat, quiet, controlled. The slap still echoed in the air like static electricity, unresolved, sharp, suspended. A man 2 rows behind her frowned. He was older, late 70s, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy blazer, gold cufflinks, and highly polished shoes. Retired Air Force by the look of him. He studied her from across the aisle, his gaze not leering, not intrusive, just assessing. Then he saw the watch. Angela's left sleeve had slipped slightly as she adjusted Ava's blanket. The timepiece on her wrist caught the cabin light, a sleek, matte black military model with a silver crest embossed above the 12. His eyes narrowed. That crest wasn't standard issue. It was custom. His breath caught when he recognized the engraving. "Presented in honor, Brig General Angela M. Carter, Strategic Command." His hand tightened slightly on his walking cane. Meanwhile, Rachel Whitman strutted down the aisle like a sheriff after a shootout. Her eyes flicked to passengers, seeking approval, validation. A few passengers nodded. Some smiled. But others, especially the ones still filming, were more cautious now, uncertain if they just witnessed authority or abuse. Angela's phone buzzed again in her lap. She ignored it. The man in the navy blazer leaned over to the passenger next to him and whispered, "She's not just a mother." The young man beside him raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "She's someone with serious clearance," the older man said quietly. "That watch, only one kind of person gets that." Across the aisle, the college student filming on TikTok, Mia Chen, zoomed in slightly. Something about Angela's posture didn't fit the narrative. Most people who got slapped in public didn't sit like royalty. Most didn't whisper calmly to a child who had just been caught in the emotional crossfire of humiliation. Angela's gaze slowly moved across the aisle, not scanning, not searching. It was deliberate, quiet, and brief. She made eye contact with the older man. A flicker of recognition passed between them. Not familiarity, but mutual understanding. She knew what he saw, and she didn't need to hide it. Rachel returned to the front, standing at the intercom as if preparing for an award speech. "Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience. Unfortunately, some passengers failed to adhere to basic etiquette. We'll be underway shortly after removal." Murmurs again, not as confident this time. Angela reached into the side pocket of her diaper bag, slowly and purposefully. From within the folds of burp cloths and formula packets, a thin, metallic rectangle glinted. A card, distinct and unfamiliar. She looked at it for a moment, then tucked it back, almost like muscle memory. But Mia's camera caught the edge of it, paused, zoomed, screen captured. "Wait," Mia whispered to herself. She ran a Google image search on the symbol printed at the corner of the card, a stylized eagle intertwined with 3 stars and a shield. The result came up instantly. United States Department of Defense, Executive Access Clearance. Mia's eyes widened. "Holy..." The businessman in 2D leaned toward Angela again. "You know you're delaying everyone," he said sharply, but there was a tremor in his voice now. "There are people on this flight with real jobs." Angela turned her head and looked at him. No smile, no frown, just quiet, centered focus. He shrank back slightly. Behind her, the older man was now typing furiously on his phone. He opened a private forum used by retired officers. His post was short. "ID confirmed. Passenger on Skylink 882, General Angela Carter. Being harassed by crew. Immediate escalation possible." Within minutes, replies pinged back. "Are you serious? Tell her to activate Shadow Protocol. We're watching. Keep us updated." Rachel returned, this time with a smug expression. "Security will board in 4 minutes, she announced to Angela, like a warning. Angela didn't even look up. Rachel stepped closer. "You still think you're staying here?" Angela whispered something into Ava's ear. The baby gurgled. Then she looked up and said clearly, "I am exactly where I need to be." Rachel scoffed, but something in Angela's tone caused a flicker of unease. In the back of the plane, the murmuring shifted. Passengers were still filming, but now with a different energy. Less scandal hunting, more curiosity. Something didn't feel right. Something didn't add up. Mia opened Twitter and posted the paused screen capture of Angela's metallic card. Captioned simply, "Who is she?" Within moments, the tweet was picked up by an aviation watchdog account. Angela's phone buzzed again. This time she answered. "Yes." A pause. "No. Don't intervene yet. Just observe." Another pause. "I'll call him when we hit the 3-minute mark." She ended the call, her voice never rising above a whisper. Mia whispered to herself again. "What the hell is happening?" The older man across the aisle tapped a few more keys. Then he looked up and smiled at Angela. Not condescending, not apologetic, just respectful. Angela gave him a slight nod in return. Rachel, oblivious, returned to the intercom one last time. "Final call. Disruptive passenger in 2A will be escorted off this aircraft. Thank you for your cooperation." Angela glanced at her watch, then whispered to Ava, "Time to show them who Mommy really is." Captain Donald Blake stepped into the first-class cabin with the kind of swagger that came from 20 years of never being questioned. His crisp uniform bore 4 gold stripes on each shoulder, his chin high, his smile tight. His eyes scanned the cabin, bypassing the tension like a practiced actor stepping onto a familiar stage. Rachel Whitman greeted him with theatrical urgency, her voice just loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Captain, this is the woman, seat 2A. She's been non-compliant, verbally aggressive, and has disrupted the entire boarding process. The baby's been screaming for 20 minutes. I recommend immediate removal." Blake looked down at Angela with the faintest look of distaste. She looked ordinary. Too ordinary for this part of the plane. The baby on her chest was calm now, dozing, as if unaffected by the storm swirling around them. Angela didn't speak. She didn't even look at him. Rachel leaned in with an exaggerated whisper. "She struck me when I asked for her boarding pass. We have witnesses." It was a lie, but a small one. Easy to believe, especially with the murmurs of passengers echoing around the cabin. The businessman in 2D added fuel to the fire. "She's been nothing but difficult. The rest of us are trying to get to our meetings." Blake straightened and walked to the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Unfortunately, we are experiencing a delay due to a passenger's failure to comply with crew instructions. Your safety and comfort are our top priority, and we ask for your continued patience as we resolve this matter. The cabin responded with soft nods, eye rolls, and a few claps from the rear rows of first class. Angela still said nothing. Mia Chen, watching from her window seat, tilted her phone slightly and zoomed in on Blake's face. Her live stream audience was growing steadily, over 3,000 viewers now, many commenting furiously. Why is she not saying anything? If she's innocent, why not explain? This whole crew is unhinged. Something's weird. Look at her face. She's not scared, she's calculating. Angela's calm was unsettling. Even Mia, who had instinctively sided with her at first, now hesitated. Why wasn't she fighting back? Why not scream, cry, demand justice? Instead, she sat like a queen in exile, dignified, silent, unshaken. The captain stepped closer. Ma'am, under FAA Regulation 121.580, we have the authority to remove any passenger deemed disruptive or non-compliant. I'm going to ask you one final time. Will you exit this aircraft voluntarily? Angela looked up for the first time since his arrival. No. Captain Blake's face twitched. Then I have no choice but to escalate this further. He pulled out his own radio. Ground control. This is Captain Blake, requesting immediate security boarding for passenger removal. Flight 882, Gate 19, Code Orange. Rachel smiled in satisfaction, standing taller. From somewhere behind Angela, a new voice spoke up. She hasn't raised her voice once. Heads turned. It was a man in his 30s, tucked into the shadows of seat 3C. Dressed in casual clothes and thick-rimmed glasses, he'd seemed unremarkable until now. But his tone was calm, serious, and laced with an authority that made Rachel blink. She hasn't raised her voice. She hasn't resisted. She hasn't refused to show her ticket, and she certainly didn't slap anyone. Rachel narrowed her eyes. Sir, I'd ask you not to interfere with crew protocols. I'm not interfering, he replied. I'm documenting. He held up his phone. The screen displayed a live stream counter climbing past 5,000 viewers. The caption read, Flight 882, racial profiling or real disruption. Mia leaned in. Who are you? The man didn't answer. Instead, he added, I've been filming since she boarded. Everything, including the slap. Rachel's expression cracked slightly. Captain Blake turned toward him. Sir, are you saying you witnessed inappropriate crew conduct? I'm saying I have video proof, the man replied. And I've posted it to 3 separate cloud servers and sent it to my editorial contact at the Aviation Integrity Journal. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. The temperature in the cabin dropped 10 degrees. Angela still hadn't moved. Blake cleared his throat. Then I hope your footage supports the crew's actions. For your sake. The man in 3C smiled faintly. We'll see. Rachel looked rattled. She returned to the front galley to consult another attendant. Blake checked his watch. 3 minutes until security boards. Angela finally moved, just her hand, gently resting on Ava's back. The infant stirred and cooed softly. Mia's live stream pinged past 8,000 viewers. The chat exploded. Why's the captain sweating? That guy's a journalist. Angela Carter? Wait, is that her? Mia's fingers flew across her keyboard. She opened Google, typed Angela Carter Defense, and hit enter. One result stood out immediately. Retired Brigadier General Angela Carter, former Strategic Command Advisor, Department of Defense. She gasped audibly. The man in 3C turned toward her slowly. You just figured it out, didn't you? Mia nodded, eyes wide. She's not just anyone. No, she never was. Rachel returned just in time to hear the words. Her smile faltered. Angela adjusted the strap on her baby carrier, took a deep breath, and turned her head slightly toward Blake. You might want to hold that security call. Blake scoffed. Why? Planning a tantrum? Angela looked at her watch, then whispered, 2 minutes. Angela Carter didn't flinch as the intercom clicked again overhead. This is your captain. Ground security will be boarding shortly. We appreciate your cooperation during this unexpected delay. To the untrained ear, it sounded professional, standard. But to Angela, who had briefed presidential-level security teams for years, it was theater. The language was too polished. The timing too perfect. Captain Blake wasn't managing a threat. He was performing dominance, but she wasn't the audience. Ava squirmed softly against her chest, and Angela gently shifted the diaper bag to retrieve a pacifier. As she unzipped the side compartment, a thin, metal object slipped from between folded cloths and fell onto the floor with a quiet clink. It gleamed beneath the seat lighting. Mia Chen, still recording, zoomed in reflexively. The camera caught it. A card, polished titanium with laser-etched edges. Not plastic, not corporate, and not something you'd expect to find next to a bottle of baby formula. Rachel Whitman, back near the galley, was too busy whispering to a colleague to notice, but others did. The older man in the navy blazer, retired Air Force, went still. He'd only seen cards like that once, in briefings where clearance was color-coded, and that metallic sheen meant one thing: restricted federal access. Angela calmly bent down and retrieved it, sliding it back into the bag. But it was too late. Mia had already paused the live stream to capture a still image. She zoomed into the emblem at the top of the card, a trident wrapped in laurel, flanked by 3 stars and a banner beneath. She ran a reverse image search. In seconds, results populated. Federal Defense Advisor, United States Department of Strategic Operations, classified Tier 4 clearance. Mia's heart pounded. This wasn't just a high-level frequent flyer card. This was the kind of identification that opened bulletproof doors, not aircraft cabins. She posted the image to Twitter with one caption: "Who is she?" The internet responded like a lit fuse on dry dynamite. Within 90 seconds, the hashtag trended regionally. Journalists from verified accounts began asking questions. The original TikTok clip passed 25,000 live views. Comments flooded in. "That's not a mom with a baby. That's someone powerful. Why is she letting them do this to her? She's got to be testing them. This is a trap." Angela adjusted Ava's blanket with slow, deliberate care. She checked her phone. Not messages, just the time. 1 minute, 37 seconds. The man in 3C, still live streaming under the username _board, caught the shift. "Something's happening," he murmured to his viewers. "That card changes everything." He panned his camera slowly to capture passengers whispering to one another, growing visibly uncomfortable. Authority no longer looked so absolute. Rachel returned to the aisle, determined to reclaim control. "Ma'am," she said, voice clipped, "I suggest you prepare your belongings. Security is on their way." Angela didn't respond. Rachel noticed the diaper bag had been shifted. Her eyes narrowed. "I'll need to inspect that bag." Angela looked up. "No, you won't." Rachel reached for it anyway. Angela's voice turned to steel. "Do not touch that." The tone stopped Rachel mid-reach. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even aggressive. But it was the kind of voice that made trained soldiers freeze. A voice that carried the authority of consequence. Mia whispered to herself, "She's done that before." The captain returned, flanked now by a junior attendant and visibly trying to stay composed. He approached Angela once more. "This is your final notice." Angela looked him straight in the eye. "I don't take orders from you." The captain laughed, dry and dismissive. "You're about to be escorted out of here." Angela unzipped the front pouch of her baby carrier and retrieved a second device. Sleek, matte black, no branding. She tapped once, then held it up. An audio tone chirped softly. The captain frowned. "What's that?" Angela smiled for the first time since boarding. "A wake-up call." The device connected wirelessly to an encrypted network, silent, invisible to the average Wi-Fi scan. but powerful enough to send a single signal directly to Skylink's executive protocol server. Rachel's radio crackled, then went dead. So did Blake's. Flight systems across the aircraft paused, momentarily glitching. Seatback screens flickered. Passengers murmured. Angela calmly returned the device to her bag. Mia's live stream hit 32,000. "What the hell just happened?" one viewer commented. "Is this real? Is she taking over the plane?" "I'm hooked. Don't stop filming." In the back, a second attendant ran toward Rachel, whispering urgently. Rachel turned pale. Something on her tablet wasn't working. Her credentials had been invalidated. Angela turned her head slightly toward Cole in 3C. "Your editor at Aviation Integrity? Tell them to log into the FAA enforcement portal. Code Carter, Echo Delta 4. Cole blinked. "How do you know?" Angela's smile returned, cool and sharp. "I built that portal. Twist, delivered." Passengers looked around, realizing they weren't just witnessing a passenger dispute. They were in the middle of something far bigger, something orchestrated, precise, deliberate. Mia's hands shook as she typed, posting to all platforms. Breaking. Passenger believed to be Angela Carter, former federal defense advisor, currently neutralizing aircraft systems in real time. FAA alert activated. Angela checked the time. 60 seconds. Rachel tried to rally. "She's bluffing! This is a stunt!" But then the intercom chimed again. Not from Blake. Not from Rachel. A new voice, crisp and male, filled the cabin speakers. "This is Preston Carter, CEO of Skylink Airways. All crew members on Flight 882 stand down immediately. That woman is my wife." Gasps erupted throughout the cabin. Rachel stumbled backward. Blake dropped his radio. Angela looked around slowly. Ava cooed softly. "Now," Angela whispered. "Let's begin." The cabin sat suspended in a breathless silence. Passengers stared at Angela Carter like she'd just stepped off another planet. The intercom had gone dead after the unmistakable voice of Preston Carter, CEO of Skylink Airways, had cut through it like a scalpel. "All crew members, stand down immediately. That woman is my wife." No one moved. No one breathed. Rachel Whitman looked like she'd seen a ghost. Captain Blake's face had drained of color, the sweat now visible along his temple. He glanced at Rachel, as if waiting for her to fix it, to take the lead, only to realize she was frozen. Angela remained seated in 2A, calm as ever. She gently adjusted Ava's carrier strap, then reached for her phone. The titanium card gleamed faintly from the side pocket of the diaper bag, unnoticed now by the very crew who had mocked her presence moments ago. She tapped a contact simply labeled SOV, Alpha, and lifted the phone to her ear. "Carter authorization, Delta Zulu 9er71. A pause. "Activate Protocol 3B. Another pause. T-10. She hung up. That was all she said. No explanation, no threats, no yelling. Just, "Activate Protocol 3B, T-10. And then, silence. Rachel blinked. What the hell does that mean? Angela didn't answer. She tucked her phone away and resumed rocking Ava, who was now dozing peacefully against her shoulder. Rachel laughed nervously, looking around. "That's nothing. That's not real. She's bluffing. This is a stunt." Captain Blake, grasping for control, stepped forward. "Ma'am, you may have connections, but this is a commercial aircraft under FAA authority. You're not above protocol." Angela turned her head toward him with an expression that made the words freeze in his throat. "No," she said evenly. "I am protocol." His jaw tightened, but he backed away half a step. There was something in her tone that couldn't be faked, something shaped by war rooms, intelligence briefings, and classified corridors. Maya Chen, still filming, turned her camera toward Cole in 3C. "Did she just say Protocol 3B? What is that?" Cole's fingers were flying across his tablet, scanning databases, internal aviation wikis, private briefings. He frowned. "There's no public record of a Protocol 3B in Skylink's operational database." Is that good or bad? Cole didn't answer. The chat on Mia's stream exploded. It's gotta be bluff. Or she's pulling strings none of us can see. You don't say T-10 unless something big is coming. She's playing chess, and they're playing Uno. The timer had started ticking, but no one knew what it counted down to. In the cockpit, Blake slammed the intercom switch, whispering furiously into the comms to ground control. Flight 882, requesting confirmation. Was that truly CEO Carter on the line? A pause. Then, confirmed. Skylink Command identifies voice print as Preston Carter, standing by for further instruction. Blake's hands trembled. He clicked off the comms and turned to Rachel. She's not bluffing. Rachel shook her head. That doesn't mean anything. He's her husband. He's covering for her. Did you not hear the part where she called in a protocol with a countdown? It's an intimidation tactic. It's working. The intercom chimed again, this time from an external source. Flight 882, this is Skylink Operations Command. Do not proceed with security removal. Federal oversight has been notified. Await further instructions. Angela didn't flinch. Passengers whispered anxiously. Federal oversight? This is insane. I thought she was just a mom. She's got the feds involved? Cole's screen lit up with an alert. Unscheduled system audit initiated. Skylink 882, clearance level, classified. He turned to Mia. She triggered an internal federal response, mid-flight. Is that bad? No, it's unprecedented. Angela's silence was starting to scare them more than her words ever could. She checked her watch. The second hand ticked past the 8-minute mark. Rachel took a deep breath and approached her again, this time less like a guard dog, more like a cornered fox. What is Protocol 3B? Just tell me. What are you doing? Angela's reply was soft. I'm giving the system one last chance to correct itself. By doing what? Shutting us down? No. Then what? Angela looked at her with pity. Exposing you. Rachel flinched. Cole's stream crossed 40,000 viewers. Hashtag Protocol 3B was now trending nationally. Maybe we should move her to the back, Blake muttered to Rachel. You touch her now, Cole said loudly, and you'll be doing it in front of 500,000 people before this lands. Angela turned toward Cole and gave him a nod. Rachel hissed, This is a circus. Angela smiled faintly. No, this is accountability. In the background, devices began chiming. A new push alert was hitting phones. Breaking. Passenger identified as Angela Carter, former Defense Strategic Advisor, currently in dispute aboard Skylink 882. Federal review underway. The college girl behind Mia gasped. She's that Angela Carter? Mia whispered. She's everything they hoped you'd never be. Angela kissed Ava's forehead. The clock ticked past 7 minutes. Rachel backed away slowly, her face pale. In the galley, a call came in for Captain Blake. He picked up, voice cracking. Blake. A low voice answered, one he knew instantly. Donald, this is Marcus Boone from the FAA Office of Federal Enforcement. Blake swallowed. Sir, sit tight. Your aircraft is under review. Do not attempt to remove passenger 2A. She is currently executing classified oversight protocol with agency approval. Blake looked through the cabin door at Angela. Boone continued. If you interfere, you will be placed under immediate investigation. Do you understand? Blake nodded. Yes, sir. He hung up. The crew had lost control of the plane, and everyone knew it. Angela? She simply leaned back in her seat. 6 minutes, she whispered. At first, it was subtle. The flight attendant call lights blinked once, twice, then stayed on without anyone pressing them. Seatback screens flashed white, then dark, then restarted with a faint buzz. Probably a glitch, someone muttered. But Angela Carter didn't move. Captain Blake noticed the flicker from the cockpit and barked a command through the comm. Reboot seat interface systems. Reset cabin controls. The junior technician tapped at the master screen, then frowned. Sir, we've lost control of passenger interface modules. What? They're offline. Not responding to standard resets. Blake leaned over. Pull maintenance access. A red notification blinked in the corner. Override. Admin restricted. Federal level. He blinked. Try again. The message returned, this time in bold. Access denied. Protocol 3B active. His face drained. In the cabin, Mia's phone buzzed with a real-time alert from a public aviation dashboard. Flight 882 rerouted to classified holding pattern. Source: FAA back-end flag. She stared at it, confused. Cole. What the hell is a classified holding pattern? Cole's eyes went wide as he read the alert. That doesn't exist for commercial flights. That's used in defense-level reroutes, usually during federal escorts or blackout events. You're saying? I'm saying she's not just neutralizing their authority, she's redirecting the entire aircraft control system. Angela remained seated, one hand gently tapping Ava's back. She glanced once more at her watch. 5 minutes. Back in the cockpit, Captain Blake was yelling. Ground Command, this is Flight 882. We've lost access to critical systems. Requesting status on override. The line crackled for several long seconds before a woman's voice came through. Calm, clipped, terrifyingly precise. Captain Blake, this is Natalie Soren from Department of Homeland Oversight. You are operating under restricted authority. Passenger 2A has activated Protocol 3B. Please stand by. He snapped. She's just a passenger. Incorrect, the voice replied. She is acting under federal compliance authorization. Any further obstruction on your part will be interpreted as interference with a federal investigation. The line went dead. Blake sat frozen. Rachel stood just behind him. This is a nightmare. Back in the cabin, more anomalies spread. The Wi-Fi signal vanished. Bluetooth controls deactivated. Passengers' personal entertainment apps restarted into a blank screen showing only one message. Protocol 3B active. Please remain seated. The businessman in 2D stood, frustrated. This is outrageous! My apps aren't working. My VPN just dropped. A younger woman tried calling her husband, but found her phone locked in airplane mode, with no override. Why can't I access anything? The crew scrambled to explain, but no answers came. Angela finally moved. She reached into the side of her bag and pulled out a compact earpiece, placing it carefully into her right ear. Her eyes remained calm, her demeanor unchanged, but the atmosphere around her buzzed with growing anxiety. Cole whispered. She just switched to tactical comms. Mia's live stream surpassed 50,000 viewers. The hashtag #SheRunsThePlane began trending across 3 platforms. Are we being hacked? The elderly woman in pearls asked, her voice trembling now. No, ma'am, Angela said gently, for the first time addressing someone not in uniform. You're being protected. Rachel, now visibly sweating, made a move toward Angela's seat. You can't just... Angela held up one hand, palm forward. Behind her, a tone beeped over the speaker system, short, precise, and unmistakably military. Directive acknowledged, a voice confirmed. Surveillance lockout confirmed. Cabin recording rerouted. Skylink internal systems now under oversight mirroring. Rachel froze mid-step. Mia whispered, What just happened? Cole stared at his screen. She just seized all internal comms, the black box, the cabin audio. Everything's rerouted through federal review channels. Angela turned slightly to glance toward the cockpit. Captain Blake appeared in the aisle, holding a manual tablet, trying to salvage some illusion of command. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We're experiencing minor technical issues. We assure you there is no cause for alarm. Angela spoke again, her voice like a scalpel slicing through the lie. You are unauthorized to address the cabin at this time, Captain. He stared at her. She stared back. I suggest you return to your seat, she added, before this escalates beyond embarrassment. Blake opened his mouth to respond. Then his tablet went black, followed by every crew device on board. Rachel's tablet blinked once, then displayed a countdown. 3:41, 3:40. She screamed, She's hijacking us. Angela shook her head. If I were hijacking you, Rachel, you'd already be on the ground in cuffs. Gasps echoed. The passengers were no longer on Rachel's side. Not even close. Then what is this? Someone asked. Angela finally stood. It was a small gesture, but it shifted the energy of the cabin instantly. She cradled Ava gently as she faced the cabin. This is a systems test, she said calmly, of a system that's failed too many people for too long. Protocol 3B was designed for this exact scenario, when discrimination becomes embedded in procedure, when authority becomes performance, and when the people entrusted to protect us abuse the trust. None of you are in danger, she continued, but the system is. Cole stood slowly, stunned. You planned this. Angela nodded once. Rachel backed away, horror dawning. This was never about a seat, Angela said. The cabin door buzzed. Outside, security teams were waiting. Angela looked toward the window, toward the light flashing on the tarmac. Blue and white strobes reserved for federal clearance operations. I warned you, she said softly. You had 10 minutes. Her watch ticked past 0. The air inside Flight 882 thickened, not with fear, but with realization. For the last 10 minutes, tens of thousands had been watching. Every insult, every command, every quiet refusal. And now, with the countdown hitting 0, the moment everyone thought was a spontaneous collapse of airline authority, cracked wide open. Mia Chen, still clutching her phone with knuckles white, glanced toward the man in 3C, Cole, whose live stream had surged past 60,000 viewers. But now, another voice spoke from behind them. You might want to turn that camera around. Mia spun, surprised to see a woman across the aisle in 4B slowly standing up. Mid-30s, blonde, crisp slate gray blazer, minimal makeup. Confident, but unassuming. She wasn't filming. She hadn't spoken once since the chaos began. But now, she stood with the calm grace of someone who'd been waiting for this exact moment. Mia lowered her camera slightly. Who are you? The woman reached into her purse and pulled out an ID badge, one with the signature red stripe that instantly commanded silence. Catherine Lang, Senior Investigative Producer, CBS News, 60 Minutes. Mia's eyes widened. No way. Lang nodded slowly. Yes, I've been embedded on this flight as part of an active investigation into racial and authority-based profiling in U.S. commercial aviation. Gasps rippled down the aisle. Captain Blake, halfway through trying to reclaim control, stopped mid-sentence. Rachel turned chalk white. Lang continued, now addressing the cabin. What you've witnessed over the past 40 minutes has been recorded from multiple angles. Every word, every order, every failure to verify identity. This was never random. Angela turned toward Lang, her expression unchanged. Lang nodded with deep respect. Ms. Carter, or should I say General? Angela returned a small nod. Catherine Lang then pulled out a second device and tapped the screen. Behind her, a wall of seatback monitors came to life. The aircraft's onboard entertainment system had been replaced with a single interface. Live feed, national media server, channel, CBS 60 Minutes, in progress. Mia's stream exploded. Is this a setup? Did they trap the crew on purpose? Oh my God, this is a sting. She's the story. She's the whole damn story. Lang faced the cabin. This flight was selected due to high complaint volume and recurring patterns of customer mistreatment, particularly toward women of color traveling with children. Ms. Carter agreed to participate in a covert test, disguised as a routine traveler, to determine whether these patterns were systemic or situational. Angela remained composed, Ava still asleep in her arms. Rachel tried to protest. She was disruptive. This isn't fair. She had a baby screaming during boarding. She didn't show credentials. Lang looked at her flatly. We've reviewed over 17 hours of internal training footage for Skylink. Not once did it instruct you to slap passengers, assume fraud based on appearance, or call for removal without confirmation of ticketing. Rachel turned to Blake. You knew nothing about this? Blake's silence spoke volumes. Lang's phone buzzed. She checked the message and turned to the camera now broadcasting across every screen on the flight and across the national feed. To our viewers watching live, this is a developing report. The woman at the center of this story is not only a retired brigadier general and federal defense advisor, but also the wife of Skylink Airways CEO Preston Carter. This footage, streamed and verified, confirms ongoing discriminatory practices and has already triggered federal review protocols within FAA enforcement. Angela finally stood. She looked at the cabin, not with judgment, not with pride, but with the gravity of someone who'd waited years for this exact reckoning. "This wasn't for revenge," she said. "This was for reform." Rachel stumbled backward, her voice cracking. "This isn't legal. You can't ambush us like this. You didn't even warn us." Lang raised an eyebrow. "Do your passengers get a warning before they're humiliated for their skin color or crying babies?" Rachel fell silent. Mia turned the camera back toward Angela, whispering to her viewers, "You guys, this is historic. We're witnessing the dismantling of an entire system, live." Cole in 3C was already typing a real-time op-ed draft. Angela Carter's Justice Trap. How one woman used silence to break an industry. Angela took a step down the aisle. Even her footsteps seemed measured, deliberate. Every person she passed looked away, not out of shame, but recognition. She stopped near Rachel. "You thought I was just another woman you could make small," she said gently. "But I didn't come here to fight you. I came to test you." She turned to Captain Blake. "And you failed." Rachel's lips trembled. Angela glanced at the nearest seatback screen, where her own face was now frozen mid-sentence on the live feed, framed in crisp digital clarity. "I've been in more dangerous rooms than this one," she said. "Rooms where silence could cost lives. Today, it cost you a career." The viewers on Mia's stream poured in thousands of reactions. "This is poetic. She's not just a mother. She's the whole movement." Brilliant setup. Justice served. Lang stepped forward again. "To all passengers, please know, you are safe. Federal debriefing officials will meet the aircraft on arrival. Interviews will be optional but encouraged. You have witnessed the triggering of one of the most significant aviation discrimination investigations in U.S. history." Angela turned once more to Ava. "Sweetheart, remember this. Silence isn't weakness. It's just preparation." Rachel slumped into the galley seat, head in her hands. The final twist had landed. This wasn't an accident. It was a mission. Angela Carter's fingers moved with the precision of someone trained to act in crisis. Fast, but never rushed. She tapped a single contact on her phone screen, then raised it slowly, deliberately, and switched it to speaker. The cabin fell into a tense silence, as if every soul aboard had collectively realized they were no longer just watching a viral moment. They were participants in something historic. The call rang once, twice, then connected. "Preston Carter," came the voice. Calm, powerful, with the unmistakable clarity of someone used to issuing commands that moved markets and shifted policies. Angela didn't say hello. She said, "They laid hands on me, Preston." There was a pause so heavy it seemed to weigh down the pressurized air around them. Then Preston's voice sharpened into something cold and unmistakably dangerous. "Which aircraft?" "Skylink 882, first class, seat 2A. The speakerphone crackled as the sound of urgent keystrokes filled the background. Then, after a few tense seconds, "Everyone step away from my wife. Now!" Gasps rippled across the cabin. Rachel Whitman, who had been frozen in the galley, stumbled forward, mouth ajar. "What?" Angela didn't flinch. Preston's voice came again, louder this time. "This is Preston Carter, CEO of Skylink Airways. Flight 882 is under immediate executive override. Captain Donald Blake, you are to relinquish command pending federal review." Rachel turned pale. She's your... Angela stood. The quiet creak of leather as she rose from seat 2A echoed like thunder. "Your passenger," she said evenly, "is also your boss's wife." Rachel's knees buckled. She grasped the edge of a seat back to steady herself. Blake rushed forward, attempting to seize control of the narrative. "Mr. Carter, sir, there must be a misunderstanding. She was non-compliant. The baby was—" Preston's voice cut in, steel sharpened to a razor's edge. "You struck a retired brigadier general. You attempted to remove a federally credentialed advisor from her rightful seat. You ignored verified ID and endangered an infant in the process." Blake's mouth opened, closed. He looked around for support that no longer existed. Lang from 60 Minutes stood with her arms crossed, watching like a prosecutor waiting for the verdict to be read. And then another voice joined the call. Female, cold, controlled. "This is Colonel Dana Voss, Department of Defense Liaison to Homeland Aviation Security. Be advised, Flight 882 is now classified as a federal incident site. All crew operations are hereby suspended. No party is to deboard or communicate externally without federal clearance." Rachel gasped. "You called the Pentagon?" Angela's tone was quiet, almost tired. "No, they called me." Preston's voice returned. "Ms. Whitman, Captain Blake, until federal marshals arrive on board, you are to remain seated and silent. If you interfere again, criminal obstruction will be the least of your concerns." Rachel collapsed into the nearest jump seat, her legs finally giving out. Captain Blake clenched his fists but obeyed. The cabin was dead quiet. Phones had stopped filming. Even the live streams paused, as viewers tried to make sense of what they were watching. Angela turned to face the passengers. "You've all seen what happens when people make assumptions. When we trust uniforms more than truth. When we let silence excuse violence." She looked directly at the elderly woman in pearls, who had earlier whispered her disapproval. The woman looked away in shame. Angela's voice remained calm, but resolute. "I didn't come here to be a victim. I came here to expose a system, and every one of you helped prove it exists." The Wi-Fi came back online, but not with the standard airline logo. Instead, each screen displayed the seal of the Department of Homeland Security. "Internal review in progress. Flight 882, under federal investigation." Cole in 3C whispered into his mic. This just escalated to a full federal lockdown. Mia's live stream now had over 80,000 viewers. Comment sections flooded. "She's married to the CEO? She's a general? This is the biggest twist I've ever seen. Yo, she pulled the Pentagon into this flight." Angela returned to her seat, gently rocking Ava, whose tiny hand clung to her shirt as if unaware of the chaos around her. Lang turned to her. "Would you like to speak to the national audience?" Angela shook her head. "No, let them speak first. Let them explain why they watched it happen and said nothing." Rachel whimpered from the galley seat. "I didn't know." Angela's eyes found hers. "That's exactly the problem." Captain Blake attempted one last plea. "Mr. Carter, please. This will destroy us. Can't we discuss this internally?" Preston's voice was measured but final. "Captain, you just assaulted the mother of my child on live camera. You broke federal protocol, ignored proper ID, and endangered a high-clearance passenger. There is no internal left." Then he added, "The DOJ has already been notified. Expect an escort upon landing." Rachel cried openly now. "Please, please, I didn't mean to." Angela turned away. "You meant every word," she said. "But you never expected consequences." The plane's overhead lights dimmed briefly, signaling the override had transferred full command to ground control. A robotic female voice played overhead. "All flight operations suspended, awaiting federal boarding. Please remain seated." Angela exhaled softly and kissed Ava's forehead. Justice had arrived. Not with screaming, not with threats, but with truth, calculated and public. She didn't just survive this flight. She turned it into a tribunal. The air inside Flight 882 had shifted completely. Where there had once been tension and confusion, now there was quiet dread. Heavy, suffocating, inescapable. The seal of the Department of Homeland Security glowed on every seatback screen like a warning label. Beneath it, in clean sans serif font, a line of text scrolled continuously. Flight 882 is now under federal jurisdiction. All parties are being recorded. Please remain seated. Angela Carter sat in perfect stillness, her arms wrapped around Ava, who had fallen asleep again despite the gravity around her. The child's peaceful breathing was the only sound near 2A. A voice returned to the cabin speakers, calm, professional, devastatingly efficient. This is Agent Daniel Rosas, Department of Federal Oversight, Captain Donald Blake and lead flight attendant Rachel Whitman. You are both suspended from active duty, effective immediately. A federal investigation is underway. Gasps. Rachel's mouth dropped open. You can't. No, I've been with Skylink for 8 years. You can't suspend me on a call. But Agent Rosas continued without pause. You are ordered to remain seated. Your digital access credentials have been revoked. Your devices are being remotely disabled. Rachel's tablet powered off with a flicker. Her smartwatch buzzed once, then shut down. Even the badge clipped to her uniform blinked red and flatlined. Blake slumped in his seat, his face drained of all color. The flight attendants at the rear watched in silence. No one moved to defend them. The quiet condemnation in the air was louder than any confrontation. Lang, the 60 Minutes producer, pulled out a secondary tablet. We're receiving the preliminary results of Skylink's internal crew conduct audit. She tapped the screen. The cabin lights dimmed slightly as the overhead monitors flickered to display a live feed. Charts, documents, complaint files. Lang's voice rang clearly. In the past 5 years, Captain Blake and lead attendant Whitman have been named in 6 separate passenger discrimination complaints. Mia Chen, still filming, zoomed in on the screen. Names, dates, and redacted testimonies rolled by. African-American mother denied pre-boarding despite medical status. Latino man accused of fare evasion in business class. Wheelchair-bound veteran removed after failing to follow instructions. Every case followed a pattern. Public humiliation, false accusations, crew overreach. And every one had been settled quietly, with non-disclosure agreements, compensation, and internal warnings. None of it had ever reached the public. Until now. Angela's voice carried softly from her seat. They weren't isolated incidents. They were rehearsals. Rachel's head jerked up. You planned this? No, Angela replied, not even looking at her. You did. Cole in 3C turned to his screen, receiving a flood of alerts. Oh my God, social media just started pulling up their old posts. What kind of posts? Mia asked. Their personal accounts, comments, photos. Whitman's been on record for years with racially coded jokes. Blake has a private Facebook group where he calls certain passengers entitled tourists in disguise. Mia whispered, It's all coming out. Indeed, across social media platforms, screenshots were surfacing. Archived tweets, Facebook posts, and comment threads, all showing years of bias that had never been punished. One post from Rachel's account read, You can always tell who snuck into first class by the size of their diaper bags. Cole read it aloud. The cabin collectively recoiled. Lang added, Our team is currently verifying these accounts, but based on timestamps and IP records, they appear authentic. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. That was years ago. I didn't mean it like that. Angela finally turned to face her. You meant it exactly like that, and you meant it again when you struck me in front of my child. Blake opened his mouth, but Lang interrupted. And you, Captain Blake, your access logs show that you bypassed passenger status verification despite receiving a system flag on seat 2A. He looked confused. What flag? Angela answered. A security notice is triggered when a Tier 4 clearance holder boards. You ignored it. Lang confirmed. Records show the alert was dismissed at 12:02 p.m. by crew ID CPTD Blake. Your login. Rachel's hands trembled. Please, I didn't know. You didn't care. Angela replied quietly. More footage was displayed on screen. Clips from earlier in the flight. Rachel barking at Angela, the slap, the passengers applauding. And then, like the turning of a tide, the faces of those same applauding passengers filled with dread. Because their faces had been caught on camera. Because their comments had been live-streamed. And now, the internet was watching them too. Mia pointed. That's the guy who said, "Finally, someone with backbone. He's a VP at a tech firm." Cole added, HR departments are already being tagged in the comments. The accountability isn't stopping at the crew. A woman 3 rows back, who had earlier muttered, "These people always bring problems," now sunk into her seat, pale. Angela looked around slowly. "This isn't just about 2 employees," she said. "It's about a culture that rewards people for acting on assumptions and punishes them for showing restraint." Preston Carter's voice returned via intercom, measured, and public. Effective immediately, Skylink Airways will begin releasing all internally settled passenger complaints over the past 10 years. NDAs will be voided. Full transparency will be enforced. And every employee named in repeat incidents will be reviewed for dismissal or prosecution. Rachel whispered, "You're destroying my life." Angela looked her in the eye. "You destroyed it the moment you forgot I was a person." Behind her, the federal agents were boarding. The tribunal had begun. Angela Carter stood at the front of the cabin, calm and resolute, as the federal agents filed aboard with quiet precision. Their presence made it clear. This was no longer a flight. It was now a federal operation. And she wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was the authority. The lead agent approached Angela with respectful nods. "Ma'am, per coordination with FAA and Skylink Executive Office, we are prepared to reroute the flight. Final destination preference?" Angela handed him a document. "Request redirection to Washington, D.C., FAA headquarters. Full press and federal oversight team will be present. I will speak publicly." He reviewed the request, glanced at his tablet, and nodded. Approved. In the cockpit, the pilots, now under federal escort, received a reroute directive from the FAA. The coordinates changed mid-air. The passengers, already stunned, now stared in disbelief as the seatback maps updated live. The plane, originally bound for Atlanta, was now making a direct approach to D.C. A murmur of awe spread through the cabin. "She's changing the destination. She just redirected a commercial flight mid-air," Cole in 3C muttered. "No, she just redirected the story of commercial aviation." Preston Carter came through on a secure channel again, now piped into the cabin with full consent. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice more composed than ever. "Today's incident has revealed a failure, not just of individual judgment, but of an entire operational culture." Passengers leaned in. As of this moment, Skylink Airways, in partnership with the FAA and federal oversight, is implementing a new framework, created and led by Angela Carter herself. Mia, filming once again, whispered, "It's happening. She's rewriting airline policy while flying." Preston continued, "Effective immediately, we are introducing the Angela Carter Protocol. It is the first national-level passenger dignity and crew accountability standard to be implemented across all Skylink operations, and soon across the industry." Angela took a breath, then turned to the nearest camera being live-streamed by a CBS team already waiting at the terminal. "The Angela Carter Protocol," she said, "is not about retribution. It's about structure. It is a systematic shift away from reflexive authority toward verified accountability." A screen appeared on every seatback monitor, displaying the protocol's core principles as Angela listed them out. 1. Mandatory identity verification before passenger escalation. No passenger can be removed or confronted publicly without digital confirmation of boarding credentials. Assumptions are not admissible. 2. Incident triage requires silent witness review. Each plane must designate 2 non-crew observers who record and submit confidential impressions to a federal liaison if escalation occurs. 3. Federal bias training and recertification for all crew. Bias training isn't a once-a-year formality. It's a quarterly requirement, including real case simulations and federally moderated exams. 4. Transparent consequence. Tracking. All crew behavior complaints will be logged, accessible to future passengers, and reviewed by third-party ethics officers, not just HR. 5. Civilian protection in presence of minors. Any conflict involving a guardian and a child under 12 is subject to immediate federal mediation, not crew discretion. Gasps and murmurs followed each rule. Lang from 60 Minutes stood in the aisle, narrating the unfolding event to a live global audience. Angela Carter is not just a retired general, not just the wife of a CEO. She is now the architect of a legal doctrine that could change civil aviation forever. Rachel, seated in the galley with her badge deactivated, whispered through tears, "She didn't just expose me, she buried the whole playbook." Angela turned slightly, meeting Rachel's eyes. "I didn't bury anything," she said softly. "I just opened the book and let everyone read it." Mia's live stream jumped to 95,000 viewers. Comments flew in from around the world. These rules should have existed already. This is leadership in action. She's not mad, she's methodical. Twist, she came for justice, left with reform. Cole leaned toward Mia and muttered, "Do you realize what we're watching? This isn't a viral moment. This is a policy revolution mid-flight." On the overhead screens, federal liaisons confirmed that the Angela Carter Protocol would enter emergency implementation within 72 hours across all Skylink flights. The FAA declared that legislation mandating compliance across all commercial carriers was already in draft, with bipartisan support emerging rapidly. Angela walked slowly down the aisle as she spoke. This isn't just about planes. It's about how we treat each other in confined, high-stress, zero-option spaces. She stopped near the elderly woman in pearls who hadn't dared speak since earlier. The woman looked up, trembling. I'm sorry for what I said." Angela nodded. "Accountability doesn't start with punishment," she said gently. "It starts with honesty." Preston's voice returned. "And on behalf of Skylink, I will ensure that honesty is enforced. Every single executive who signed off on settlements, who ignored crew patterns, who buried internal memos, they are being reviewed." At the rear of the cabin, applause began. Soft at first, hesitant. Then it grew. It wasn't the kind of applause for entertainment. It was for change. Angela raised her hand slightly. "No cheers," she said. "Not yet. Change doesn't end in applause. It ends in new rules and new leaders to enforce them." The aircraft began its descent into Washington, D.C. On the ground, journalists, federal officers, and policymakers were waiting. The sky hadn't just carried a flight, it had carried a movement, and the law, rewritten mid-air, was about to land. The wheels of Flight 882 touched down at Washington, D.C.'s Reagan National Airport with a soft, quiet thud. But the moment it happened, the world seemed to erupt. On the tarmac, dozens of federal vehicles stood in line, their lights flashing, not in alarm, but in welcome. Reporters crowded behind security barricades. Satellite trucks hummed with readiness. Live stream notifications pinged in the pockets of millions. Flight 2 had become the most watched landing in aviation history. But inside the plane, Angela Carter didn't rush to disembark. She remained seated in 2A, Ava nestled against her chest, breathing softly, peacefully. The seatback screens were off now. The cabin lights dimmed. A reverent silence filled the space, as if everyone aboard knew something sacred had just occurred. A federal marshal approached Angela gently. "Ma'am, we're ready when you are." Angela nodded once. "Thank you, but I won't be continuing the flight." He blinked. "You're not flying Skylink's return?" Angela stood slowly, cradling Ava as she rose. "Not today. Skylink needs time to heal, from the inside out. They're still my family, but even families need boundaries when they've been hurt." Her voice wasn't sharp. It was measured, grounded, full of grace. And yet, it shook the air more than any command she'd given that day. Rachel Whitman, still in the rear galley, looked down at her hands as if realizing, perhaps for the first time, the real weight of what she had done. Captain Blake sat silently under federal escort, a broken figure whose stripes had once symbolized authority, now stripped down to shame. The moment Angela stepped into the aisle, the entire plane seemed to exhale. No one clapped, no one cheered. It was quieter than any award ceremony, more sacred than any medal presentation. Mia Chen, still recording, whispered to her camera, "She's not leaving as a victim. She's leaving as a leader." Angela made her way toward the exit, flanked by marshals but untouched by them. She wasn't under protection. She was the one setting the tone. Outside, Preston Carter stood behind a press podium, flanked by Skylink executives and federal regulators. He had refused to make a public statement until his wife was safely on the ground. As Angela descended the aircraft stairs, holding Ava in one arm and her overnight bag in the other, the press surged forward. But the agents formed a wall of space, giving her dignity, not distance. She didn't wave. She didn't speak. She simply walked past the cameras with the quiet strength of someone who didn't need to explain herself anymore. Every screen across the country captured the same frame. Angela Carter in a simple navy coat, Ava asleep against her chest, stepping away from the plane that had made her a household name. Not in anger, not in tears, but in calm, immutable power. CBS News called it the walk that changed aviation. As CNN ran the headline, "From Seat 2A to the Capitol, Angela Carter's Journey to Reform." Fox News, surprisingly, called it a lesson in command and composure. Within hours, the clip of Angela declining the return flight reached 50 million views. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't begged. She had simply said no. And America had never respected a no more. Preston waited near a black SUV with tinted windows, holding the door open himself. As Angela approached, they exchanged a brief glance. No words passed between them, but the understanding was unmistakable. He took Ava into his arms with practiced ease. "She didn't cry once after that slap," he whispered. Angela allowed a small smile. "She didn't have to. I cried for her." He kissed her forehead. She turned to the press, who stood breathless, waiting. But she said nothing. Her silence became a thunderclap. A senator watching from DC tweeted, "Angela Carter didn't just write a new rule book. She reminded us that dignity isn't something you're given. It's something you never let go of." Back inside the terminal, federal agents escorted Rachel and Blake out in separate exits. Reporters followed, but were met with only two statements. From Rachel, "I was wrong. I thought I was doing my job, but my job isn't worth someone else's humanity." From Blake, "I lost sight of what command is. I'm learning that now." Both were placed on indefinite administrative leave. Their certifications were flagged for federal review. Their social media profiles were locked, their former supporters silent. Meanwhile, social media exploded in a different direction. #Thank you. Angela trended worldwide. So did #Seat 2A. Artists created digital tributes within hours. Angela holding Ava with wings behind her. Angela as Lady Justice without a blindfold. Angela made of steel but holding a sleeping baby like the world's most precious cargo. Airlines scrambled to issue statements of solidarity. Some promised new diversity and sensitivity training. Others announced passenger-first task forces. But none could match the speed or sincerity of Angela's impact. In a surprise move, the Department of Transportation announced that the Angela Carter Protocol would form the foundation for a new federal bill, the Passenger Dignity Act, set for floor discussion in less than 60 days. And through it all, Angela remained silent. She declined interviews. She refused endorsements. She turned down requests from national networks to host town halls or accept awards. "I didn't do it to be seen," she told Preston one night. I did it so others wouldn't have to be." At a private debriefing with FAA and DOJ officials, Angela shared one final note. "The power I had that day wasn't from my name, or my past rank, or who I married. It came from not lowering my voice, not shrinking, not matching their hate with fire, but with fireproof composure. It was the kind of power that couldn't be voted in. It had to be lived." Across the country, schools played clips of her testimony in ethics classes. Corporate leaders used her flight transcript in executive training. Parents shared her story with daughters, with sons. She became a symbol, but she rejected hero worship. "There are no heroes," she later wrote in a brief op-ed for The Atlantic. "Just people who choose to stay standing when sitting would be easier, on a plane, in a boardroom, at home, anywhere." Angela Carter never returned to Flight 882, but she didn't need to. She had landed exactly where she was meant to be, and so had the truth. 6 months had passed. The world had changed. The aviation industry was no longer the same sky Angela Carter had quietly boarded beneath on that unforgettable afternoon. Where there had once been unchecked authority, rehearsed apologies, and quiet cover-ups, now there were protocols, standards, oversight, and everywhere there was her name. The Angela Carter Protocol had become more than a list of rules. It was now federal law, passed by unanimous vote in Congress, co-sponsored by senators from both parties who had watched the full stream of Flight 882 in stunned silence. It was the first time in 2 decades that a passenger-led reform had become a legal framework, and it started with one mother, one seat, one moment. Rachel Whitman was now a cautionary tale taught in training programs worldwide. Found guilty of assault, abuse of authority, and obstruction of a federal investigation, she received a 2-year sentence, light by some standards, but symbolic in its resonance. Her case was broadcast live to the same networks that had carried Angela's silent walk down the aircraft steps. She wept. She apologized, but the sentence was final. Captain Donald Blake's pilot license was revoked indefinitely. Though he avoided criminal charges, his FAA record was flagged, and no airline dared rehire him. He retreated into quiet obscurity, declining interviews, unable to defend his decisions. Angela, on the other hand, never sought spotlight, but it followed her. She received invitations to speak at Harvard, West Point, and the United Nations. She turned most of them down. When asked why, she responded simply, "My voice was already heard. Now, it's time to listen to others." But she didn't disappear. She founded the Carter Foundation for Dignified Travel, a nonprofit offering legal support and advocacy for passengers, especially parents and travelers of color, who had experienced mistreatment in air travel. Within months, the foundation had processed over 1,400 cases. Settlements followed. So did policy updates. Airlines scrambled to avoid becoming the next Skylink 882. More importantly, families reported feeling safer, seen, supported. Angela became the face of quiet justice, not performative, not political, but principled. In classrooms across the country, students read about the moment she stood up without raising her voice. In boardrooms, executives referenced Carter-class response plans when discussing ethics under pressure. One airline even redesigned their entire customer service training program under the name AVA, Assure, Verify, Act, inspired by the baby cradled in Angela's arms that day. Ava. Now 14 months old, she had no memory of the slap, the chaos, or the cameras. But she lived in a world her mother helped reshape, and she was already a better flyer for it. In an editorial titled, "The Sky Belongs to Her Now," the New York Times wrote, "Angela Carter's dignity under fire did more than expose injustice. It shifted the entire conversation. She reminded a nation that real power is not loud. It's grounded. Not angry, it's unshakable. She changed how we fly, but more importantly, she changed why we rise." Airlines began competing to adopt Carter protocols faster than their rivals. Bonus points were awarded for going beyond the minimum standards. Passengers could now request access to their flight crew's public complaint history before booking. New apps showed transparency ratings by airline. Discrimination complaints dropped 42% in the first quarter alone. But Angela didn't take credit. "It's not about me," she said during a rare televised statement. "It's about what happens when a system forgets its passengers are people, and someone reminds it." Her words became part of the opening lesson in FAA crew certification. Meanwhile, the footage from Flight 882 became the centerpiece of a new National Museum exhibit in Washington, D.C., titled "Flight and Fight: The Day a Mother Grounded the Skies." Angela visited the exhibit once. She walked through quietly with Ava in her arms, declining the private tour and instead mingling with the visitors. One woman, unaware of who she was, turned to her near a screen replaying the slap in slow motion and said, "Can you believe how calm she was?" Angela smiled softly. "I think that was the point." She didn't stay long. She didn't need to, because her legacy was no longer tied to a seat number or a boarding pass. It was written into the skies. At airports around the world, signs appeared. "This airline complies with the Angela Carter Passenger Dignity Act." For many, it meant safety. For others, it meant warning. Either way, it meant change. Every Skylink aircraft now carried onboard documentation that explicitly outlined passenger rights, escalation procedures, and crew transparency mandates. The image on the cover? A silhouette of a woman standing at the top of airplane steps, holding a child. Not triumphant, not celebratory, but steady. In one of the final interviews Angela ever gave, she was asked, "Would you go through it all again?" She thought for a moment. Then, "Yes, but I'd do it knowing my daughter would never have to." It was that answer, simple, human, maternal, that sealed her place not just in policy books, but in people's hearts. Angela Carter never ran for office, never took a corporate position, never signed a book deal. But every time a flight attendant paused before making an assumption, every time a passenger felt safe asking for help, every time a crying baby wasn't met with scorn, but with support, Angela's work echoed. She had written a new altitude into the soul of travel. And the sky would always remember the day it learned who it really belonged to.